So,
Cool. So
what
have
do you
you?
have going on now?
Yeah. So like I mentioned last time, Dom and I just launched our Kickstarter, A Hell of Our Own. So it's basically a 120-page original graphic novel that's going to be focusing on Japanese mythology, tied with like the poetic manner of Dante's infamous epic poem Inferno. So basically, what I wanted to do was I wanted to like explore like a man's soul. I always find like those really deep emotional tales to be like the most captivating in my opinion. And so I take the life of like a samurai warrior, you know, a man who's pledged service under a shogun who returns home from war, and his war crimes follow him home. Did everything he do in war, was it a noble act? Was it a warrior's true path? And you know, shit hits the fan. He's got vengeful spirits, and his gods betray him, and he doesn't know why until he gets into the depths of hell. But you know, they slaughter his wife and they take his daughter, and you know, he's forced to commit the ultimate act, and he has to go into hell to save her. And that's, you know, that's the premise of Dante's Inferno. But we're spinning it and adding a lot of these Japanese elements to it, and really diving into the heart of like who Ren Ayotoshi is, and you know, can he become the warrior he was always meant to be, or will he be like a damn soul like the rest?
Wow, that's really interesting. Very in depth. That seems to be your MO. I like that it's a full 120-page story.
Yeah,
Because that
yeah.
that really gives you the opportunity to explore and build the character a lot more than running a series or even a mini. You can get that story to the consumer and really deliver on telling everything that you want to tell. So, I guess, like, what was that process like? How close to what you were thinking did you get?
So when I initially thought up the idea, it was about midway through like Adam and Eternity, and Dom and I were already talking about what we're doing next, and it was the choice between a western or a samurai story. Both of them are going to be along the same paths of, you know, like the redemptive man. And we ended up going with the samurai story because we figured, you know, who doesn't love a good samurai story? And we really wanted some awesome action scenes of just swords flying everywhere. And then, you know, Dom wanted to draw more monsters because he got a little tease of that at the beginning of Adam. So it just worked out perfectly. But he was on board from the start. And then when we started talking about the characters, so we have our main characters. We have Ren, we have his daughter Aiko. We have Lao, the spirit monkey he'll meet at the beginning of chapter 2, who's like Virgil, the guide, and like throughout hell and purgatory. And then we have the gods and goddesses who are against or for Ren that we'll meet later. So those are like the main characters you'll meet, and then the villain you meet in like the final chapter with like a little teases along the way. But we were mapping it out, and we decided to do 5 whole chapters. Some alluding to Dante's poem. So we have Terra, which is Earth, Purgatory, Hell, and then Paradise. And then we added a extra chapter, chapter 4 between Inferno and Paradiso called Finality. So those are the 5 chapters of our book, and basically they're the 5 steps to be, you know, become the redemptive warrior. You know, that 5-part plan, 5-arc story as general. And each chapter is not the same amount of pages. You know, because sometimes the exposition needs a bit more. The first chapter is 32 pages. Second chapter is 15. Third chapter is 64, and then fourth and fifth are like the final closing chapters. Like the epilogue will be a bit shorter, but you know, we really wanted to do like the entire scope of a story rather than a series, because like we could have broken it down into issues, but we just figured why have people wait. You know, when you get that pre-done trade paperback right from the get-go, you have that whole story. And that's how we see the markets going anyway, with how as young creators we want to get our content out there. You know, why wait a month a story, have a bunch of production costs with a single issue, when we can, you know, plug up a Kickstarter, you know, give us you know, give us your money for $120, 120-page OGN, and that's all yours on your bookshelf. And it's going to be super premium quality too. The printer we use for Adam and Eternity is already on board for Hell of Our Own, so it's super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I totally feel you on what you were saying at the beginning there about cowboys and samurai.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's kind of my thing. Is like I'm always thinking like, man, I would like to tell a cool story about an adventurer, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
immediately where I go because I love the wandering samurai kind of stories, and I grew up on like westerns and especially
Mm-hmm.
like the TV westerns like Gunsmoke
Yeah.
and stuff, where you would just like have a town and some guy would wander in and things would
A
happen, you
nameless
know.
man. Hmm.
I often wonder, you know, like they did. Hollywood threw so much money at making the Cowboys versus Aliens movie. Why can't we get a big studio to put some money into
Yeah.
making like an American Western samurai epic, you know, like
Oh yeah,
Kill
that'd be
Bill, but
awesome.
like Lord of the Rings style or something, you know?
Hmm. That would be
Like
cool. Yeah,
I wonder why that's such a back burner idea for them.
well, with like Lonnie and Zach doing Undone by Blood, we see
Oh,
how good
so
like a
good.
modern neo-noir western's going. So, we're just like I was like, well, why don't I spin this the other way too? We're like, we'll make a awesome Japanese fantasy story, and then we'll give it like deep poetic elements from a traditional classic tale. Where everybody's like, it's a mixing and mashing, yet everything is still original. And that's what I like about all us up and coming creators, because we're like trying to punch into the industry with stuff that we see they don't have there, because there's been a lot of good samurai content. I mean, you got recently you have the Devil's Red Bride, you have Honor and Glory, I think, from Behemoth, and
Oh
then
yeah,
you have
yeah.
like a few, you have 47 Ronin, and like Lone Wolf and Cub of the Ancient, so like the old manga stuff. So we're trying to bring back some of the stuff that we knew did really well back then or is doing well right now, and then throwing our own take on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true. It's definitely a cycle and it seems like it's coming around. So that'll be really cool to
And
see
who
how
just
that all
and who
comes
doesn't
together.
love samurai and cowboys? It's like
Yeah.
it's you just can't go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the very like east and west of the same concept, you know. I think that's why they match up so well. Plus bullets and sword fighting. Come on now.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
That's just
Yeah.
cool visuals.
Hmm. Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So
All right. So you have the preview
where
up, I'm assuming.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask you like how do people get this? Where do they get it at?
So basically, the only way to get this right now, since it's not like a full, it's going to be a fully realized project, because I have all the faith in this Kickstarter. I mean, we're already like 15% of the way there after like 3 days of launch. So that's really awesome for, like a small creator like me to have that. But you can back at the Kickstarter link, which I actually is in the back of that PDF I sent you. And I can
Mm,
send you a link later in your email. But you can only back it on Kickstarter right now. Basically, we have 3 pledge tiers. I didn't want to make it too confusing for everybody to hop on. For the first tier, you pledge $5. You get a awesome physical book plate that Dom's is basically the front cover image that both Dom and I will sign. It will be like a nice book plate to put on the inside of anything. Or if you don't pledge for the physical book, you can just put it on like your laptop or a sticker or something like that. And $5, you get the entire 120 page PDF of the story. We weren't going to cheat you out. We're not just give you, chapter 1 of 5. No, we're giving you the whole page story for $5, base minimum. It just shows you thank you for giving us a chance. We're new creators. Hello, thank you. $16 gets you the second tier, and you get the physical copy of the trade paperback plus an 11 by 17 poster print of one of our 3 pinup artists that we had. So I had 3 of my friends, David Strahan, Brody Cole, and Kyle David, all did these amazing like single pinups for us that are all just hell of our own themed. So you can pick between the 3 of those, and you'll basically get 11 by 17 poster print, the trade paperback, which will be 7 by 10, the book plate, and then the digital copy as well. And then the final tier is $45, and that gets you actually drawn into the book. So we have multiple scenes where like Ren's walking along the shores of hell and purgatory, and there's a lot of wandering spirits and souls. So we decided might as well populate it with people who wanted to back a little bit higher. So we'll grab a picture of you, and then Dom will be able to print it in. He uses face references all the time for all our characters, so he's really good at making it accurate. So basically, it'd be like if you back that highest tier, you'll get your face drawn into the book in the later chapters. And everything else that I listed so far. Plus, you also get a personal meeting with me that we'll get to talk for a couple hours about the book and its process. Any questions you have, like oh, was this really cool? And just drive with comics with the creator.
wow, that's phenomenal. That's a really good way to connect with your fan base and get them in the book. That's so cool.
I know, I loved it, and I kind of took that idea from Rylan Grant, who's doing the Jump right now, and he did the Peacekeepers back, and he's been doing like really well Kickstarter. I took that idea from him because I'm like, oh wait, that would be really cool to include your fans, because that's what we want to do as creators when we want to bring our fans into the book. And I was like, that's a perfect way to do it. I got all these spare characters lying around, might as well throw one of our fans into it. So it kind of just worked out perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you listen to his podcast?
I do, yeah. He's a
Yeah.
really great creator because I'm actually glad he like moved from movies to go to comics because he's telling the things he wants to tell. And it seems to be like a lot of the jump these days is going from TV and movies to the comic industry. So that's really cool. And he's just a really smart and funny guy. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love his podcast because, like you said, I mean, he made the jump for a good reason. Like he really fell in love with the medium and realized how
yeah,
much more freedom he would have in this field, and so he jumped over here. And the way I guess like his business acumen is the other thing that's really impressive. Like the way he handles and manages all of the
yeah,
business
he's
of writing
awesome.
independently
Mhm,
is just like genius.
mhm. Yeah, he's a good role model for me, especially just getting into run your operation smoothly, get your name out there. This is how you include fans, how you build a network. Just a lot of things like that has really really helped.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the name of that, I don't think we said it for the people, but it's called Writer's Block, and it's
Hmm.
Dave Avalone and
Yeah, I
Rylan
believe.
Grant.
Hmm.
Avalone or Avatone. I think it's Avalone.
I think it's
But you can
abalone.
find it. Writer's Block, BLOC. It's really cool
Hmm.
though. Um,
And then I subscribe to his newsletter too, which I think has the link to that most of the time. So, hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I read a lot of newsletters too.
Yeah, man, those are big. I just posted my most recent one yesterday. Uh, and it was basically just a similar breakdown of what's going on with Adam, what's going on with the Hell of Our Own book club, because they always like to hear about what others authors have to think about books.
Hmm.
And then I teased some of my other upcoming comic projects that are in the works but not yet ready for release yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You had mentioned Undone by Blood. Are you reading? Are you current on that?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually currently reading The Other Side of Eden. Mhm.
What do you think of Other Side of Eden?
I like it. It's a different story than what we had the first time around, but it still has that awesome soul twist to it. Soul as being the character.
Yeah,
Um, uh, and Lonnie and Zach are killing it just the same
yeah,
time around. It really helped. It feels like I'm watching like True Detective,
yes,
like True Detective season one, but mixed with that awesome, just like throwing it with like that Burbaker pulp, just throwing that back in there with the
yeah.
western and I love those whole pages of prose they put down because that
Hmm.
just goes to show you the amount of work they're putting into this project. They're writing like a novel along with a comic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool because there's a novel in the comic that
Mhm.
you're like not reading page for page, but you get all these like really important sections. It's a really cool way to just add a lot of depth to everything that's going on.
Mhm.
And for the first series, I fell in love with Solomon like pretty quick. I thought he was just like a bad dude. Like whenever
Yeah,
he's,
yeah,
I
he's
think it's like the
badass.
first or second issue when he's laid up out in the middle of nowhere and
Oh
the
yeah,
guys like
yeah.
walk up on him. I'm like done. Like this guy is cold.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
fell in love with him, but it took me a lot. Pretty much the whole run, it took me to fall in love with the other half of the story. But I feel like Other Side of Eden, like it came out the gate just like I loved it. Both of these characters are really cool. Train heists in comics seem to be a thing lately. I think I've read three or four
Yeah, I
other
noticed that.
heists.
That's it's kind of weird how you have like those same creative spheres. Like, I was
Yeah,
working on a few just projects that are in development, and then I just like happen to like scroll on Twitter and I see like something recently announced. I'm like, wait, that's kind of super similar. Like, what are these things floating around? I'm like, oh god damn it, now I have to like make some
yeah.
changes here, like make some changes there. It's like
But it was still so good, and I love the way they kind of like cut between that and like a safe heist kind of deal. And whenever he's like watching the clock, those 12 panels, oh my god, that was so cool. And it just like
yeah.
leads up, leads up, leads up, and then and you're
You
back on
can't
the
beat
other side.
Sammy's storytelling is so good. I mean, that goes to
Yes.
show you too. Aftershock is definitely killing it with bringing in their talent, because they started their company off with like the big names and big creators, and now they're going into the smaller names, and that was a good anchor for their company because then you have good support in the background. They can help prop up newer guys coming in, and from reading Lonnie and Zach's newsletter, it seems they're giving them a lot of freedom for what they want to produce and make. So that's also really cool to hear.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like Aftershock, they came out the gates pretty strong, and then they kind
Mhm.
of
It kind of went
faded a
low
bit for a little
and then
while.
it kind of go back up. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
maybe about a year and a half ago, all of a sudden they started doing all of their like cover pages
Mhm.
and stuff the same. Like they got all their graphic design across all their books. They lined it up, and in the last like year and a half, they've pretty much become like a must grab number one. Like if I see number one
Easily, yeah.
Aftershock, like I'm gonna grab it because they're probably gonna sell me on it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think because Boom has kind of gone in the direction of they're producing TVs and movie series now,
Becoming more of
and
the
like
studios.
it feels like they're becoming like the next Netflix studio. I mean, they do have a Netflix deal, so you can't blame them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for us comic guys who want to stick with comics, Aftershock is really feeding us that comic taste, because Undone by Blood is being adapted into a TV show. Yeah, it's because it's a great idea, but
Yeah.
we're not going to get that exact same thing on the screen as we are on the page compared to other things that Boom is just basically doing directly to TV. So that's what I really like, is the difference between that too. Like we only find them when they're dead, because I know we are talking about Al Ewing last time. Like
Hmm.
that's an awesome sci-fi story that pulls all the great aspects of godhood and mythology that's like we're barely on the cusp of,
Yeah.
but like we have that traditional like Star Trek like intro,
Hmm.
like kind of like The Expanse, or what's another like Picard, obviously that's Star Trek, but like
No,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of setup. But I read like Proctor Valley Road, right, the new Grant Morrison Alex
Hmm.
Child one, and I'm passing on that series. And I think I mentioned this last time, like Grant Morrison's my goddamn idol. He's And so I was like, holy shit, I think this is one of the first Grant Morrison stories I don't think I'm ever going to read. I think it's the only one I'm actually not going to read, because it
Yeah.
didn't feel right. Like I opened the book, and within the first 2 pages, it didn't feel good to me. I was like uncomfortable reading this. I'm like, this doesn't hook me at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I actually missed out on that one, but
Good.
I wasn't
I'm
really
kidding.
sure because
Go read it if you want.
it's almost
Mhm.
adapting like a public domain kind of concept, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's basically a bunch of kids in the 70s go. It's actually right near, kind of near my house. My house is probably about 50-minute drive from where it actually is in California, Proctor Valley Road. It's near like Chula Vista, down by the border of Mexico, and it's just like it's like known as like a haunted. There's a lot of crime that happens there. It's not really haunted, but he's just exploring like, oh, there's monsters on that road at night, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I just didn't get into any of the characters. None of the characters felt real. None of them felt alive. And the 70s aspect, I'm like, cool. So, there's no phones, there's no technology, there's not enough stuff for news to get around. Um, so, yeah, it just didn't really hook me as much as other series have. What's really impressed me, though, I know we were talking about this last time, has been a few of DC's obscure titles. And what really impressed me was Batman, Superman, number 16.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
Dude, tell me how fun that issue was.
Oh yeah, it
That
was
was
so cool.
that was my honestly, that was my favorite Infinite Frontier,
Yeah.
like kind of reboot. That was my favorite title. I was blown away with
How
how
did
good
you read it
Gene
the first
handled that.
time?
I read it digitally, and so because I'm running out of space in my apartment with like the books I
Yeah.
have, so I moved a little bit digital. It like kind of hurts my soul, but I'm still reading, so I can't really complain. But I
Did
read
you
it
read
digitally.
like both stories or
Oh
just
yeah,
one
yeah.
at a
I read it.
time?
I read it at the top and the bottom
Yeah.
consecutively. And I definitely put the brain power to it, but it was so fun. I loved it. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that was me. I took the time to read like both sections like per page, so that because I wanted to see like everything, I didn't want to like
Mhm.
glance up and spoil the other half of the story at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So I was like, I'm gonna
No,
read
it
both
was,
of these, and it was really fun, really cool. I know my friend
and Ivan
Mark, he
Reis's
read it.
story.
I think he read like all of Superman's story and realized once he got to that end was like, oh wait, it's all. So like he went back and reread it. I was like, man, I
Mhm.
think you might have ruined the fun for yourself.
Yeah, I because I know it gave you that option at the beginning. It's like go ahead and read one or the other or read both. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna read both because I know how tales work like that. They're gonna collide at the end. Because if you ever read Trillium by Jeff Lemire, I
Mhm.
think like the third or fourth issue, he basically has the top part, but you actually can only read it one way. You have to read it where it goes all the way to the end, and then you get another story which you have to flip the book around and read it this way. So that was a cool thing how Gene did it the same direction, and he just had to go like this. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea, and I love the way they did that. Have you read
And then
have you been
Robin,
reading
I think I'm most
Suicide
excited
Squad?
for. No, I haven't picked up. I'm not a fan of the Suicide Squad. Like I've tried to read a lot of their stuff in the past. I read like the original Suicide Squad. I read like the New 52 Suicide Squad. I'm a fan of Secret Six is better than Suicide Squad, but I just love Gale. Like
See,
Gale and Nicola will have like my heart forever.
I've never read any Suicide Squad. I mean I just know them through like cultural osmosis and the movie
Mhm.
in 2016 or whatever. But this one they have Peacemaker is like the lead of the book, and we're 2 issues in, but like it's so much
So he's
fun.
basically John Cena.
Yeah, yeah, which is the thing.
Mhm,
Like you can definitely tell that they're kind of trying to like
mhm.
put him over as kind of a big star because the movie's on the precipice. But like
Yeah.
knowing John Cena from like Trainwreck and stuff, I think he's a completely underrated actor. He's actually
Mhm.
quite
He's
good,
not
you
bad.
know.
No, he can act. Mhm,
Yeah, and he's
mhm,
hilarious. Like,
mhm.
and then there's like an interview where they're asking him about the character and he's very clear. He's like, "Oh yeah, what I like about this character he's basically just the dick version of Captain America."
Yeah,
And I'm
really.
like,
Mhm.
or the douchebag version of Captain America. And I'm like, he gets this guy. Like, based on how he reads in these first 2 issues of Suicide Squad, I'm excited to see how he plays that and what he brings to it. Because I think it actually might turn out as like one of those more iconic performances.
Rad. I mean, that'd be super cool. I mean, I enjoyed the Tom Taylor Suicide Squad too with Bruno Redondo because that felt
Yeah, the
like the
one that
most
just ended,
least
right?
suicides. Yeah, the one it felt like the most least Suicide Squad run because it introduced like a whole new batch of characters that actually I cared about. That was really fun.
Yeah.
What else? I read JL, and I actually just read JL 60 this morning.
Mm.
I have to say 59. Um, if I hadn't read 59, I wouldn't have enjoyed 60 as much, but 60 is a lot better than 59. So it definitely was Brent Bendis is like picking up the steam now. It was very much
Yeah.
so that beginning intro, and I have all the faith in Bendis too, because I feel like he's doing the new Avengers, the routine with JL, and I'm really excited for that. But 60 was really great this morning. What else? I haven't continued reading Batman because I'm just gonna trade wait for the Tinian run. Um, I haven't read Green Lanterns. Oh, I did read Superman in Action Comics, the
Oh
Golden
yeah.
Age, that number one, number two. That was actually really good. I like Philip's voice as Superman. He did a
Oh,
phenomenal job. Mhm.
dude, like
Yeah, yeah. No,
this
there we
is
go.
my jam. Like this
Mhm,
I've never really
mhm,
been that much into Superman, but dad Superman and playing
mhm.
that role of like mentor and dad, like Philip Kennedy Johnson is crushing it
As
right
you get
now.
older too, you definitely like appreciate Superman more. Because I remember growing up,
Hmm.
with my dad, who basically influenced me to like get into this at first. We had always watched Justice League and like Batman animated series and JLU together, right? And would be on the couch and he would love those moments when Superman stood above, and I'd always be like, no, Batman's better. But then like as I
Yeah.
got older, realizing what Superman actually represents and like who Superman can be, then I really started to fall in love with the character. So I remember reading the Tomasi and Gleason and Jimenez rebirth run, and I was like, Superman and Son, like this is it. And then we kind of went lull on Superman for a while. But reading Philip again with the beginning of Action Comics and Superman, I'm like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Like Phil really gets like the dad side of Superman,
Oh
and he
yeah.
gets the young side of John, because John's
Yeah.
not Damien. That's why I always
No.
like John's not Damien. He's not just a quick replica, or he's another Robin. John is John Kent.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love in this most recent issue how you get the way that like Clark's kind of realizing like Jonathan is I guess he's what, somewhere between like 18 and 22 or
Yeah,
something.
I think Bendis said he aged him up to 16, 18, like around that.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
he was gone because he was like 12 or 13 when he left, I believe. And Damien was 13. So I think that makes sense that he's 16, 18. Mhm.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like Clark kind of starts to realize like I don't have to protect him, like he's powerful on his own. He can do his own thing, you know, he's capable, but he's still also very represented as like young and inexperienced and
Yeah.
naive, you know, and I love the way that you can tell Clark is kind of playing this as like, you know, I want to make sure that I set the best example in front of him, you know, and they go
Mhm.
to a whole different planet, you know, and the way he just like interacts with the species and shows Jonathan like, hey, look, let's let them attack first, and you know, and that way we can
Mhm.
show that we're good people, you know, and it's just I don't know, Philip K. Johnson is just crushing the whole relationship and the dynamic and how to like represent watching your kids grow up. It's
Yeah, and I
impressive.
like how they're exploring, the United Planets, because that was such a cool idea that Bendis introduced in his Superman run, and how, we're actually getting like a more cosmic Superman. We have like the more Superman stories on Earth with the Justice League and like his other stuff, but they're introducing the cosmic elements and new alien species, because that's a whole side of the DCU that really gets slept on, like we talked about last time, especially with what the Green Lanterns could do. And what Grant Morrison's run just finished with his Green Lantern, I mean, that was completely cosmic. So I love the shit out of that run. Yeah, I'm sure I'm really happy. And then I heard the Wonder Woman by Conrad and Clunan. Both are awesome creators. Is really good. I've yet to read it though, but I love Wonder Woman, so I think I definitely want to check
Yeah,
that out too.
that's
Mhm.
that's the Diana Prince book, right?
Yeah, that's the one where she's like trapped in time because she's not a part of the whatever that was introduced at Infinite Frontier.
Yeah,
There's like
like yeah,
like
because her
Gambit
story
and
coming out of the
Hera, yeah,
death metal.
because she decided not to become the Spectre, which I was actually
Yeah,
kind of happy because I'm glad they didn't pull another Green Lantern rebirth. We're like, oh, cool, Diana's the Spectre now. Yeah, but I'm glad they didn't do that. So she's like somehow trapped in time. And I'm like, all right, we'll see what goes. But that opens up the door for Wonder Girl. I'm excited for Hippolyta. We actually get to see Hippolyta in JL60 today, and we get to see her as like Wonder Woman. So that was really cool. But I'm
yeah.
excited for a lot of these new characters that introduced during Future State, because like I told you, I skipped out on Future State. Um, oh, Swamp Thing. Yeah, that's another
I
one.
was gonna say.
Yeah,
Well, let me
yeah,
ask
that
you, what
was.
about Justice League Dark? Are you reading that one?
Yeah, so that's in the backup. So I read both I love the Merlin. The Merlin stuff's great.
Yeah,
Because we got to see him in Demon Knights, but after Demon Knights ended, we really didn't get much of Etrigan or Morgan Le Fay, and that was stuff in like medieval DC history that I always like really liked. So that's cool how
yeah,
we're getting Merlin back. And then the new team is pretty bitchin' too. So
yeah.
it's this issue, it's Etrigan, Detective Chimp, Constantine, and Satana.
Yeah. See, in this we saw like the glimpse of the future in Future State Justice League. It was basically
Mm.
the end of Justice League and Justice League Dark. It was basically the
Okay.
end of that. So
Oh,
like
rad.
we know how this story ends, but we've had a glimpse of how it might end.
Mhm.
But getting there is what's going to be interesting because like all the stuff that happened in Justice League Dark, that first one, because like in
Yeah.
Future State, we know that the demon is locked inside of Detective Chimp.
Oh
So
shit! Really?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and it's such a
Okay.
cool transformation. Like Detective Chimp's like, and you
Damn.
see him just like
Yeah.
coming. Oh my god, it's
I
so
can
cool.
actually see that because Detective Chimp. He's the protector of where's the Shining Knight sword from? That was with in the first part of the JLD. He's like the protector of that realm. I'm
Oh,
forgetting
okay.
the name of it, but with the Shining Knight sword gifted to him by the Shining Knight.
Yeah.
And then they mentioned Blue Devil too, which
Hmm.
references to like Shadow Pact, and I'm like, oh shit! Like if they're bringing members of Shadow Pact back, like I'm like that'd be super cool. So it really seems like DC's hitting their stride once again, not forgetting the past and bringing back characters and like new ideas, but also like not like crushing the new ideas with the old ideas. Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, and the Justice League Future State, that one, like all of the Justice League is dead, and so there's like a new Justice League team, with like Joe from Far Sector
Oh yeah,
and
and
Yara
First Sector is
Flor.
amazing. Hmm.
Yeah, so like they have
Hmm.
a new era, a new like generation of Justice League that are trying to figure out what happened and how everything went wrong.
Oh,
And
yeah.
supposedly that's what this new Justice League arc is. I think it's a 7-part one, the
Oh
Last
wow.
Ride or something like that. I think, but that's where that's all supposed to be headed. We're gonna
Oh,
get to
that's
see
the
how that
varsity
turns
one,
out.
right? Yeah, that's the
I
digital
think so.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait to the to like the I don't like reading the digital first because like I'm just gonna wait for the paperback. I just
Hmm.
but I know I miss and then like the Legends of the Dark Knight too that's coming out by Derek Robertson. I'm really excited to check that one out too. And then but on the Marvel front too, I know you've been catching up on the Marvel stuff. Yeah, the X-Men is still hitting strong. That last issue,
They
The
just
Vault was
announced a lot of that.
awesome. Yeah, dude, I'm excited. I'm really excited for the new team. Daredevil is just phenomenal. I literally just went on like a
Yeah.
Daredevil binge on the weekend and just reread all of Brubaker and Michael Lark's run because that was one of my favorite Daredevil runs. Immortal Hulk is still a phenomenal. Thor is good. The King in Black ending was good. I'm excited for Venom 200 though because that's the real ending. Um,
Well, what did you think
Indie
of Thor?
Con.
I've been reading Thor.
I thought the finale was a Prey was it's definitely a setup. I kind of wanted
Yeah.
a bit more. I kind of wanted a bit more. Um, but you
I
know,
thought the action side of the fight and stuff was disappointing. I
yeah,
liked
I
how
kind of
it
expected.
thematically came back
Mhm.
around.
I wish Nick is the emotion and the storytelling is phenomenal, but the action
Hmm.
felt like you saw the hit, but you didn't see the hit. You saw the
Yeah,
swing of the hammer, but we didn't get to see the effect of the hammer. And that's what I
yeah,
was like, I kind of felt that lacking too. But I still
but
enjoy the story because I know Donnie
yeah,
plays the long game. He's just setting things up. So I'm
yeah.
excited to see what happens.
I mean, the whole story spun out of the idea that like Thor, all the way from issue 1, we've had Thor like the hammer's getting heavier, and he's not
Hmm.
quite
Hmm.
sure why, and so he feels like I need to get away so I can clear my head. He wants to take a vacation, and he switches with Donald Blake, and then that's where all of this comes from.
Yeah. My
But
favorite part of the prey run was Throg. Throg and Lockjaw.
yeah,
But that was what do you expect? Like Throg
that
and
was a good
Lockjaw was
fight.
just so fun, dude. That was such a good fight. And then,
Yes.
Sif was pretty badass. I'm glad that she's getting a little I'm glad how like all the Asgardians are really getting actually a voice in Donnie's run. And then
Hmm.
Donnie definitely does carry that awesome narrative voice that Jason had, and which made Jason's run so damn good. So
Yeah.
I'm in it for the long run with this guy.
Yeah.
He's leaving Venom. He hasn't announced his next project. It's probably going to be Spider-Man, but
Yeah.
I'm excited for what
Well,
he's
he's
doing
also
with Thor.
working on the Spawnverse stuff with
Oh yeah,
Todd, so
with
I'm
Todd.
sure that's going to take up some time too.
Mm-hmm. I've never been a Spawn guy. I've tried to get into it. I've read like the first like 30 issues and I just couldn't get into it. Same thing with Invincible. I read the first 30 issues of Invincible and I was just like, all right. But it takes a writer's voice that really gets to me. Like, because the
Yeah.
story was, story's good, but I just want something that like connects to me. But like the
Hmm.
Invincible TV show, I'm really enjoying.
Oh my god,
It's
it's so
mostly
good.
because it's mostly because my dad and I have a new superhero animated show to watch because we always watch the new animated films when they come
Yeah.
out as soon as they like what was really good was the Batman like Enter the Dragon film. It was a
Hmm.
what am I forgetting? It just came out before I left. Um, Sword
Yeah,
of the
isn't that what it's
Dragon?
called? Oh, maybe
Is it
Sword of the Dragon, Way of the Dragon,
something it
Fist of the
but
Dragon,
it's
something
something
like that.
dragon, but it was
Yeah.
really good. It was because the animation was on point. It was just super fun, and the
Oh,
action. It was a great dude. There was like blood and like gnarly like discombobulated. I was like, what the hell? It was just really
wow.
cool.
Yeah,
But
that's
no,
awesome.
Invincible's enjoying it.
Yeah, I really like Invincible. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier keeps getting better and better. This last
Yeah,
episode, it really impressed me. Really,
I'm
the last
excited.
two.
The I hope they finally like call him U.S. agent at some point. But I'm really excited that they introduce Countess Contessa Allegra de la Fontaine
The fact that you
because,
can even remember that.
well, I know that so well because I just reread Secret Warriors by Jonathan Hickman, and she plays a huge part in that because of her
Mm,
relation to Nick Fury, and she's like the triple agent. And what I'm hoping with Captain America: Winter Soldier is, since we don't have Hydra in the MCU anymore, maybe they'll introduce Leviathan, the Russian KGB secret organization. So that would be really cool because then we have ties to the Red Room, the Winter Soldier program, to Black Widow. And I'm like, that could really open up a lot of doors for the more grounded heroes in the MCU. Uh, and we could get Nick Fury back. Because then we could have like Quake too, because part of the Secret Warriors was like Quake, so that's Daisy Johnson. Druid, Phobos, who is the son of Ares, Stonewall, who's the son of the Absorbing Man, and then Hellfire, who's like just JT, is like a random character. But Hickman's, I like Secret Warriors is one of my favorite comics I've ever read. And it's like the bottom side of the MCU that everybody always skips out, but it's Nick Fury, and anything with Nick Fury is just fantastic.
yeah, that's really cool. I like that. Falcon and Winter Soldier is providing the MCU with more of a base to get like back to some ground level heroes.
Mm-hmm.
They went cosmic so fast, and
Yeah.
that's been my
Mm-hmm.
fear with the MCU moving forward, is that they're going to have to stay up here in all these like massive events and stuff. And so I love that Falcon and Winter Soldier as a show is establishing that they're still like a seedy underworld to the MCU, and they can get back into like some more grounded and real heroes,
I
So
mean, hell, they introduced
I hope that
Madripoor
turns
too.
out great for the future of the movies as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they introduced Madripoor, which is super cool because that place alone is just a huge part of the smuggling and black market of the Marvel U. What kind of messed me up though was, Bucky's a super soldier, and he trained in the Red Room, and he's one of the best fighters in the MU. I don't get his redemption arc; it's kind of BS. His fighting skills have gone down the drain. I don't know what's going on there. But I'm all for Sam having the shield. I actually think it'd be really cool to see him on the screen as Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't have been my pick. I would have had Bucky have the shield as it was at the end of Winter Soldier. But I'm excited to see what they will do with Sam Wilson if they actually make him Captain America.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Winter Soldier has some of the coolest action, like him and Captain America. I love the way they handle their action and their combat and stuff. It looks so cool on screen.
Yeah.
But Bucky as a character, they're way too focused on like the PTSD aspect of it and stuff.
Did you
And
read the Brubaker interview that came out this past week from Kevin Smith's podcast? Ed gets into it deeply actually about because he can say whatever he wants. But he got into it pretty good about what he thinks of the MCU version of his, basically his and Steve Epning's character, and he was pissed. He was fucking pissed. And he's like, I could have wished Kevin or somebody would have given me a call to ask how they want the direction of this character, but they just turned a blind eye and they're making him this pussy. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what they're doing.
Man, I need to check that out because that's how I feel. Like I always thought that like his action and stuff is amazing, but and for a little window of time, it was okay to make him all mopey and sad and stuff.
Yeah. Like you do it for the first episode, but you don't do it for 6 episodes of a series.
Yeah, but like Falcon and Winter Soldier, he has gotten like no kind of character arc. He's had no real development as a character. And then, like you said, they've even toned down his abilities and his action and stuff. So what am I left with at this point to like about this guy?
At the beginning of the last episode, that should have been over in 10 seconds. I don't like John Walker, just because he took a super soldier serum, his body, first off, should be feeling the effects and shouldn't even be like moving. Like he could not be operable as a super soldier yet because that's go into the blood system and you go through like that process. So that was a little like plot hole right there. No, I'm so bad because my brother and I watch it, and since my brother and I knows I'm a writer, I just pick apart TV shows and movies. I'm like, this is going to happen. This is what's happened. There's a plot hole, and I was just
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I'm like, fuck. I was like, God damn it. I was like, because you know what we want to see is our heroes. You know, we read comics. We know how powerful our heroes can be. So we're like, come on, what is this?
Yeah, and that's one of those things. Like for me, I can see stuff and be like, oh yeah, I would have went a different way, or like this is how I would have taken this. But whenever I look at the way that they handle somebody like Bucky, I'm like, no, that's just objectively bad. Like you are
Yeah.
not doing this character any kind of justice.
Mm-hmm. And then if
It's
you because the Winter Soldier, I actually just finished reading a couple weeks ago the Brubaker Winter Soldier story. So the one that takes place after he gives up the Captain America mantle, and then the Alice Coate, the Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier series. And both of those, you should have, like, the production team or whoever wrote the screenplays for the TV series should have read those, because that handled Bucky's like redemptive arc of how he wanted to solve all his sins from the Red Room. Both of those were like perfect. And I'm like, why didn't you pull from this? Because this is like the Bucky that we know as comic readers. And this Bucky we're seeing on screen is, you know, not Bucky Barnes. He's like a shadow of what Bucky Barnes could be.
yeah, yeah. It's
And,
crazy to me how bad they've handled it. But on the exact opposite side of that coin is Sam. You know, like this last
oh,
episode,
dude, they're
his
really
arc
doing
was
well.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, that training scene just got me hyped because you know, who doesn't love a good training scene? And I was like,
Yes,
he's
right.
going like full Rocky, and I'm like, hell yeah, that was sick.
Well, and I
But you
love
know,
how like he has that working with veterans and PTSD, that element of his personality has come through in this show, but I thought it really shined when he's out there with Bucky. And you know, like he's never pushed any kind of like any of that stuff onto Bucky, but now that Bucky's like kind of come around and a little more open, he gives him that advice. He's like, look, man,
yeah,
the problem is you're trying to make yourself feel better, but you got to make them feel better, you know. And
mhm.
like that, you know, it just kind of like tied his character together. Because I mean, honestly, Sam in the MCU is something I did not like
Yeah.
him. It's just like I never even
But we
thought
just
about him
didn't you
most of
didn't
the
care for
time.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then this
he
show
was a
has really turned him over for me.
mhm. I agree. And then even like Isaiah Bradley, like, you know, I love how they introduced that idea because if they're going to set up a young Avengers in the future, you know, that's essential because Isaiah Bradley's nephew is Patriot. And if we get the whole young Avengers team, that'd be absolutely really cool. And you know, his like little like 15-minute excerpt of the show had like more character development than like half the characters in that show. So you know, I was like, wow, like, you know, good on them to really get that nice little you know, B plot, nice
Yeah.
shining star. Mhm.
Yeah. I was really impressed with these last two episodes, you know, but
Yeah, the last two episodes have been the herald of what's going on so far.
yeah, like the iconography, like the way that they showed so many things in that second to last, like when Battlestar hits that wall, I
Oh
love
yeah.
how perfectly they were able to telegraph what happened. Like we've
Mhm.
all seen movies and shows where like somebody looks like they got killed, but like you're not really sure. You're like, ah, they could
Mhm.
probably no. Like when Battlestar hit that wall, it was perfectly telegraphed to the audience, like done. You know, everybody
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
room, the way they reacted, the way it hit on screen, like you knew for sure, you know. And then that final shot with the shield and everything, like they
Yeah,
really
that
nailed it.
was
It was like Zack Snyder level,
the
like
bloody
framing, you
shield
know.
was yeah, the bloody shield I have to say was a beautiful snapshot. Just like that three
Yes.
quarter looking up. I was like, oh my god, that's like as like a creator, we're like, damn, you really did nail it.
Yes.
But yeah, that was a and you just see blood on the shield is just, you know, awesome as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. You know, but I can't help. I mean, you miss Steve Rogers. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
of
what it is,
course,
you
you
know.
know.
Like you miss Steve Rogers.
But one thing I do really appreciate about John Walker as a character is he's really kind of grounding Steve Rogers in a lot of ways,
Mhm,
because now that we've seen a different path that could take, it really shows us like how much of a like how much character Steve Rogers really has, and how altruistic he is, you know, and how unique,
mhm.
and that not just anybody can do this job, you know. Even John Walker is like just shy of being a perfect human being, but that just shy is enough to like make this go completely off the rails.
What was awesome too is I remember listening to Donnie and Megan, Donnie Cates and Megan Hutchinson's Devil's Advocates podcast, and they were reading Superman Up in the Sky. But Donnie was talking about how, you know, when a writer takes a hold of Superman or Cap, you know, you have to like have it in yourself to be that ultimate altruistic guy. But you know, you also have to take the room when you need it. And like, you know, it's the Cap, like when Cap or Superman enters a room, their chest is bigger than everyone, but they don't hold themselves above everyone else. Like it's like that kind of feeling. And you know, that's what I think they're really doing well with Sam is they're bringing him up to that when he enters a room, he's Captain America. That's what I really like how they're doing so well with Cap. And if they can do that properly and bring us like a Cap that you respect with the shield and the uniform, then that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like they really nailed it whenever Sam like calls the community and brings them
Yeah.
back. And you're just like, yeah, like this guy has what it takes to be a leader because he knows when to humble himself and he's not bigger than anybody else. You know, like you said, his chest might be bigger, but he's never above anyone. And so I think he's going to be a really good Cap.
Hell yeah. Oh, and I was going
Assuming
to
they
ask,
go that route.
did you read Shadecraft?
Shadecraft?
Yeah, the new number one
No,
from
I haven't
Image.
read it. I've heard quite a bit
Okay.
about it.
Yeah, so I read the team Lee Garbett and Joe Henderson. They did Skyward beforehand, and so my buddy Kyle turned me on to Skyward, and I binged all 3 volumes because I found this awesome deal at like a local comic shop here. I got all 3 volumes for $15, which I was like, whoa, hell yeah! And I read all of Skyward, and I loved it. And so I read Shadecraft 1, and I thought of you because I know you love those like kind of stories, and I was like, dude, this is a really good number one. So that was a really number one that Image impressed me because of how well like the coming of age story was, and plus the art of Lee Garbett is like just so good.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure. Because,
Mhm.
yeah, it's one like I don't know, it didn't even really register on my radar. And then
Mhm.
once it came out, like everybody's been talking about it.
Yeah,
So,
and then Home as well. I read last week was a knockout. That was
really,
amazing. That really hit me at home.
see,
Mhm.
and that one,
And
like,
the
I
Vietnam
like
beat.
it. I think it's good, but I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah,
I had some, I don't know. There was some things about it. And I know it's a number one, but it
yeah.
just felt a little weak in some aspects of it. I
Mhm.
like that they use black and red for the dialogue to,
Mhm.
you know, show those two different languages. But what I
Mhm.
didn't like was that they went with such a pure translation of it that
Oh
there's
yeah.
no, you know, like Spanish is, I don't know.
It's
Whenever,
very vibrant. It's a moving culture. I have a
yeah,
lot of friends.
exactly.
Actually, I have friends who
It's
live here
like
in
so
Paris
poetic. Yeah.
who are from Mexico, and it's very, you know, it's like that. A lot of
It
hand
adds a
movement.
lot of like flavor and spice to the world around you in general, you know. And so that's one thing I hated was that it's such a pure translation. Like the spiciest thing they say is plantain chips. I mean, but it's about these people coming across the border, like, and the border
Yeah.
crossing that they cross at is actually exactly where I was whenever the shutdown happened last March, you
Mm.
know. So
Mhm.
like to me it felt just like very sterile. A lot of the dialogue was real sterile, you know. It didn't seem to have any connection to the world it
Yeah,
was in.
I agree on the sterile side. Like it felt very much so expositionary. But what I
Yeah,
really enjoyed was by the end of it, you had the mother had her hooks in you with how she was feeling about her son being taken away. And then the boy was just so lost. Like this is the first time he's ever been without his mom. Like they just went through this rigorous journey. And then he has these superpowers out of anger. And like he
yeah,
doesn't know what just happened. And that
and he's in a
alone had
world
me
like
hooked.
where he doesn't know
Yeah.
anyone or anything.
Yeah. That what really struck me because you know you read
Hmm.
Adam, so you know that's just that we
Yeah,
took the end of that and just made it at the beginning, and I was like, so that automatically hooked me. That's why I really liked Home because I'm like, oh, this is a
yeah,
5 issue mini. I'm really in for this now because this was a perfect beginning intro. Mhm.
yeah. The other thing I had a little bit of trouble with is like I get the main like warden guard guy like kind of just being a dick. That totally
Yeah,
made
yeah.
sense to me. But the
Mhm.
guy that speaks Spanish to her, right? Like
The
having been down
translator.
there
Mhm.
and like
Mhm.
he I don't know, he just wasn't quite human enough for me because he's like,
It
"Oh yeah,
felt
we're
kind
gonna
of
take
robotic.
care of you, we're gonna
Yeah.
process you," and then like opens the door and just like pushes her in. And I was like, no, like the way that that goes is like you have to do a job that you hate. So you're gonna tell her like, look, I am so sorry that you came here. I'm sorry that what's about to happen is gonna happen, but things have changed, and unfortunately, this is how this goes now. And walk her over there and like humanely put her into a jail cell,
I
not just like
wonder.
surprise her out of nowhere, you know?
I wonder how extreme it was, because it definitely gave us a glimpse of what's going on. Like, because this is true. A lot of it is true. I wonder how extreme they wanted to go. I wonder how, like, when Julio and Anna were working on it, I wonder how extreme they wanted it to be, because how we wanted the
Yeah.
second translator guy to be the more compassionate one compared to just the dickhead white dude. Um, and I was like, definitely felt like it was a little bit more robotic, a little bit more stale compared to what
Yeah.
he could
I
have
thought he
been.
felt like
'Cause, I
a
mean, if he
role
speaks Spanish
full
and you hear
character.
like this woman speaking in Spanish trying to like, like, I want to see my son, like, why are you taking him away? Like, you should be you should have an emotional response. You shouldn't just be like, I'm throwing him into
The
a cage.
the female guard that's like, what do we do? Do we wait till they get done or whatever in that scene? Like she
Yeah,
had more humanity than the guy speaking Spanish.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's what frustrated me is they made it like the translator guy was supposed to be kind of like important to the story and like kind of the empathetic character, but like we know from the opening scene the way it does the narration, she doesn't know what happened, what changed in the news. And every time that that translator guy talks to her, the first thing he asks is, didn't you watch the
The
news?
news is, yeah. He's like,
So
have you watched the news? Or like, things have changed. And I
yeah,
remember,
he
like,
asked her like three or
it was
four
like a
times, and
few.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a bad dialogue choice because instead of wasting time asking if she's watched the news yet again, you could instead be saying something that would make you feel more like a real human, you know?
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's
overall, I
almost
did
like
enjoy
they're,
the book. I'm still in for the ride. It was just
yeah.
like two nitpicky things that I was like,
I
they could
agree.
have done this a lot stronger and connected a
Mhm.
little better.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a book that's going to be talked about a lot too, because of how close to reality is with, just the powered twist. Because I didn't read anything about the book. I
Yeah,
absolutely, I don't like to read previews. I just like to hop into a book and see. And so I was like, oh, this
I'm
is
the
going to
same.
be a nonfiction tale. Like, I was like, oh, and then as the end, I'm like, oh wow, that was a surprise for me. So I did. That was like, oh cool, there's superpowers. I thought it was just going to be like a kid trying to find his mom back home. So I hope that it definitely gets like a good amount of press. I think it has, but it's definitely worth a read for people who kind of need a little bit more eye opener, because
Yeah.
that book opens your eyes if you don't know what's going on in the world today. It was
Oh
like
yeah, very true.
the George Takei book that came out last year about the Japanese internment camps in World War II.
Hmm.
That was crazy heartfelt. I remember putting that book down and I was like almost in tears because of how true it was.
Yeah,
And like books like like Superman Smashes the Klan, a lot of like social justice books are being pumped out, and I love how people are reading them, and it's
yeah,
really really great to see.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's always nice to see real life reflected. I know there's kind of like the anti politics and social
Yeah, yeah,
justice in my comic stuff, but
because we
I
want
love
the
those
escape.
kinds of stories.
We want the escapist stuff sometimes. We don't always want to be
Hmm.
hit with the real world. But when you can instill certain human elements without just making it like a lecture, that's what's really key. And that's what I always try to do too as a writer. I want to hit on things that disturb me, that make me with a hell of our own, right? With the title alone, it's like, what are the demons inside of me that I really want to conquer? And what's always been like, when I was growing up, I had really bad anger issues, and I'd always lash out violently at people because I just didn't know what was wrong, or like I didn't have an understanding. And as I've gotten older, I've become more of a peaceful man. So Hell of Our Own was really my drive to be, how can a warrior, a warrior who's supposed to be a man to protect, be noble, be gentle, but also know when to strike. How can a peaceful man or a violent man become one or the other? And that's the whole message of Hell of Our Own, is like, how can this warrior, that's all he's known as blood, give up the blood or become something better?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So I guess we're coming up on that hour mark. We can wrap
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Mhm.
I guess tell everybody, you just talked about Hell of Our Own, but where can they find it and where can they find you?
So basically, Hell of Our Own is on Kickstarter. It's live now. It's going to be live till May 13th. So we got a little under a month left until it's gone. We got a $7,000 goal. We're about $2,000 in. We're heading out strong, getting a lot of support, getting a lot of outreach. You can find us there. Just type in on Kickstarter's link, A Hell of Our Own, or visit my social medias. All my tweets are pinned with the link. So you can go to at Robbie, ROBBY underscore Deshaies, DESHAIES underscore on both my Instagram and Twitter. You can find that there. You can head to my website, rjdeshaiesii.writing.com. And you have the most recent blog updates. You got the nice little book folders. You can check out all my books, including my prose work. Adam and Eternity is also available now on Amazon. So the entire 154-page graphic novel is available on Kindle, and the paperback will be available by the end of the week. So I got a few things on the shelf right now. And then upcoming, I got 2 one-shots coming out by the end of May, which hopefully will be announced soon. I don't know, Vanessa and JJ are still working on some stuff. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Awesome.